Imagine a hero, the pride of an entire chapter, a name whispered with reverence across 100 worlds. That was Brother Captain Vayner. But even legends can fall. When mortal wounds claimed him, his brothers refused to let his story end. They gave him a new body, one of iron and steel, entombing what was left of him within the sarcophagus of a dreadnought. They thought they were preserving a hero, but they created a prison. For centuries, Vayner fought on, a living weapon haunted by fading memories. His humanity eroded with every battle, every long, dreamless sleep. This isn't a tale of glory. It's the story of a soul trapped in an eternal war. A hero who ultimately had to choose between endless service and the final piece of death. Join us as we explore the tragic fate of Brother Captain Vayner. Do not forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the grim darkness of the 41st millennium. In the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, legends are forged in the fires of war, and heroes rise to become beacons of the Emperor's light. Today, we delve into the tragic saga of one such hero, a name once whispered with reverence and awe across 100 worlds. Brother Captain Vayner of the Crimson Templars. His story begins not in shadow, but in blinding glory. Imagine the scene. The fortress world of Corvath, a bastion of heresy ruled by the tyrannical warlord Kael'vor. For decades, this world had spat defiance at the Imperium, its walls seemingly unbreakable, its armies a tide of corrupted flesh and steel. Countless campaigns had faltered at its gates, turning the soil sour with the blood of loyal Imperial Guard. But where others saw an impossible fortress, Brother Captain Vayner saw only a testament to his chapter's unshakable faith. Vayner was the very embodiment of a Crimson Templar. His presence on the battlefield was a force of nature, clad in magnificent crimson power armor. His blade, Faith's Rebuke, a relic of immense power. He was a demigod of righteous fury. It was said that to witness Vayner in combat was to witness the Emperor's wrath made manifest. His tactical genius was unmatched, his courage a burning inferno that inspired every warrior under his command. He didn't just lead his men, he was the very soul of their crusade. He would be the first to breach the wall, the first to charge the enemy lines. His voice a roar of devotion that drowned out the screams of the dying. The siege of Corvath would become his masterpiece, the crowning achievement of a legendary career. Vayner didn't just plan the assault, he orchestrated a symphony of destruction. He led punishing orbital bombardments that shattered ancient defenses, coordinated lightning-fast drop-pod assaults that sowed chaos behind enemy lines, and personally led the final decisive charge through the main gate. The battle was long, brutal, and utterly heroic. At the zenith of the conflict, Vayner faced the heretic warlord Kael'vor in a duel that would be sung about 4 generations. Vor, a giant of a man swollen with profane power, met his end at the tip of Faith's Rebuke. With a final prayer on his lips, Vayner struck the tyrant down, and with his death, the fortress of Corvath fell. The victory was absolute. The Crimson Templars had achieved what was thought impossible. Brother Captain Vayner was not just a hero. He was a living saint, the pride of his chapter, a symbol of the Imperium's unyielding strength. His name became a watchword for courage, his deeds a lesson for every new recruit. In the annals of the Crimson Templars, the siege of Corvath was their finest hour, and Vayner was its architect. None, not even the most cynical chapter serf, could ever imagine a future where the glorious Captain Vayner would fall. His devotion was absolute, his spirit unbreakable, or so it seemed, for in the grim darkness of the far future, even the brightest stars can be extinguished, and the most devoted souls can be led astray. The very qualities that made Vayner a peerless hero, his unwavering conviction, his absolute certainty in his own righteousness, were the seeds of his own damnation. His greatest victory was merely the prelude to his most tragic fall. How could such a paragon of virtue, a champion of the imperial faith, stray from the path of righteousness? The answer lies not in a single moment of weakness, but in a slow, insidious corruption that began in the very hour of his triumph. Join us next time as we explore the shadows that crept into the heart of a hero and witness the tragic transformation of Brother Captain Vayner, the savior of Corvath. into the very thing he swore to destroy. The greatest falls are always from the highest heights. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this dive into the lore, be sure to hit that like button. Subscribe for more tales from the 41st millennium, and ring that bell so you never miss an episode. The final assault was a storm of fire and fury, a symphony of destruction played on the brutal instruments of war. We were the Emperor's fury made manifest, a tide of ceramite and steel crashing against the Xenos' filth. Every bolt gun roared a hymn of retribution. Every chainsword sang a song of righteous slaughter. We were Space Marines, the Adeptus Astartes, and we knew no fear. I, Brother Sargem Vayner of the Imperial Fists, stood with my squad at the spear's tip. We were breaching the alien command spire, a twisted monument to their profane gods. The air was thick with the stink of ozone, burnt promethium, and the acrid stench of alien ice. My armor, the Stone Right's aegis, was scarred and dented, a testament to centuries of service. Each mark a story of a battle won, a world saved. Our advance was relentless. We pushed through corridors choked with the enemy's writhing bodies, our boots crunching on their kidneys remains. We were a force of nature, an unyielding wall of yellow and black. I remember shouting orders, coordinating fire, my voice a harsh rasp through the vox grill of my helmet. Second squad, suppress that nest. Brother Lucian, heavy flamer, cleanse that passage. We fought as one, a single, indivisible weapon forged in the crucible of Terra. The enemy was a grotesque breed, a race of insectoid warriors with razor-sharp claws and bioweapons that spat corrosive acid. They swarmed us, a chittering tide of death. But we held the line. For every one of us that fell, we took 100 of them with us. This was our duty, our sacred calling. We reached the central command chamber, a vast, cavernous space, pulsating with sickly, alien light. At its center stood the Brood Lord, a monstrous creature of nightmare, its bulk dwarfing even a Terminator in his armor. It was a beast of pure malice, its psychic shriek tearing at our minds, promising oblivion. This was it, the heart of the beast. To cut it out was to win the war for this blighted world. For the Emperor and Doran, I roared, the ancient battle cry echoing in the chamber. The charge was glorious. We surged forward, a wave of righteous anger. I parried a sweeping talon with my power fist, the crackle of its energy field vaporizing the alien's limb. My bolt pistol barked, punching explosive shells into the creature's armored hide. Around me, my brothers fought with the fury of lions. Chainswords wind as they bit into flesh and bone. Plasma fire illuminated the cavern in brief. Brilliant flashes of cerulean death. We were winning. The Brood Lord was reeling, its psychic defenses crumbling under our focused assault. Victory was within our grasp. I saw an opening, a vulnerability in its defenses as it recoiled from Brother Titus's thunderhammer. I lunged, my power fist humming with barely contained energy, aiming for the creature's grotesque head. This would be the killing blow, the blow that would echo through the history of our chapter. But in the chaotic maelstrom of battle, a single moment can change everything. From the shadows, one of the creature's lieutenants, one I'd thought long dead, raised its plasma cannon. A searing, white-hot orb of incandescent energy erupted from its muzzle. Time seemed to slow. I saw the projectile coming, a miniature sun hurtling towards me. I tried to twist away, to bring my pauldron to bear, but it was too late. The impact was a physical cataclysm. It wasn't just a blow, it was an annihilation. The plasma blast tore through the ceramite and plasteel of my chest plate as if it were parchment. The superheated energy vaporized armor, muscle, and bone in a fraction of a second. An agony beyond comprehension exploded through my nervous system. It was a fire that burned not just my body, but my very soul. My enhanced physiology, my 2 hearts and 3 lungs, were instantly shredded into a cauterized ruin. My world dissolved into a white-hot scream. The roar of battle faded, replaced by the shrieking protest of my failing power armor, and the rushing of my own boiling blood in my ears. I collapsed, my legs giving out from under me. The Stone Right's aegis, my constant companion for 300 years, was a molten wreck, its machine spirits silenced. I could feel my lifeblood, the sacred Genseed heritage of Rogel Dorn himself, pouring out of me, sizzling on the superheated deck plating. My vision flickered. The cavern swam in and out of focus, a kaleidoscope of violence and pain. I saw the Broodlord finally fall, brought down by the combined fury of my surviving brothers. A cold satisfaction touched me, even through the haze of agony. We had won. The planet was saved. My sacrifice was not in vain. But my body was failing. My systems were shutting down, one by one. The Laraman's organ, the very thing designed to seal wounds, was overwhelmed. My vision began to dim, the edges darkening as if a black curtain was being drawn. Primera, Waisidaing. A space marine knows no fear, but in that moment, I felt a profound sense of failure. Not for dying, but for leaving my brothers. For leaving the fight. I refused to yield. I clawed at the deck, trying to push myself up, to rejoin the fray. My muscles, what was left of them, screamed in protest and then gave out completely. My body was a prison of shattered bone and cooked flesh. My strength, the strength of a son of Dorn, was gone. The darkness was closing in, a cold, silent void. This was it, the Emperor's peace. I had served, I had fought, I had died. But then, a sound, it cut through the encroaching silence, faint at first, then growing stronger. A chant, a litany. My brothers, I could hear their voices, ragged and hoarse from battle, but filled with an iron resolve. He is our brother, and he shall not fall. The words resonated deep within me, a flicker of warmth in the encroaching cold. By the will of the Emperor, his life is preserved. It was the litany of preservation, a desperate, solemn prayer, recited over a fallen warrior, to deny the embrace of death, to hold the spirit to the flesh long enough for the apothecaries to work their miracles. His duty is not done. His war is not over. They were gathered around me. I couldn't see them through the encroaching blackness, but I could feel their presence, a wall of faith and brotherhood against the coming night. Their voices were an anchor, a lifeline thrown into the abyss I was falling into. They were refusing to let me go. They were denying death its prize. Deny the darkness, for the Emperor protects. The pain was still there, a roaring inferno. My body was still a ruin, but their voices, their faith, gave me something to hold on to. A single point of focus in the storm. I fought, not with muscle and sinew, but with sheer will. I clung to their words, to the sound of their voices chanting the ancient litany. I would not yield. I would not let my brother's faith be in vain. As the field of battle finally faded completely to black, the last thing I heard was their unified roar, a promise, a command that echoed in the depths of my soul. They will not die. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the heart of battle. If you love the lore of the 41st millennium and the tales of its greatest heroes, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comments which chapter's story you'd like to see next. For the Emperor. My name is Vayner. At least, that's the name I remember. The last memory of flesh and bone is a flash of green, the roar of a wog, the searing agony of a power claw, tearing through my ceramite plate. I remember the red earth of Armageddon rising up to meet me, the taste of my own blood, and the final, fading light as my brother's voices called my name. Then, nothing, just a vast, silent darkness. I don't know how long I drifted in that void. It could have been moments or millennia. Time had lost all meaning. But then, a flicker. A spark in the endless night. Slowly, painfully, awareness returned. But it wasn't the kind of awakening I knew. It wasn't the familiar jolt of consciousness after a period of rest. This was different. I tried to take a breath, but I had no lungs. The instinct was there, a ghost of a biological need, but the action wouldn't complete. Panic, cold and sharp, tried to seize me, but I had no heart to race. I tried to move my limbs, to push myself up, but my arms and legs were gone. I was trapped. A phantom in a dead shell. Where was I? Was this the afterlife? Had the Emperor judged me and found me wanting? A low hum began to permeate my new reality. A steady, rhythmic thrum that resonated in a place where my bones used to be. A strange, acrid smell filled my senses o'er. What passed for them now? It was the scent of sacred oils, blessed unguents, and hot metal. My vision flickered into existence, not as a single, coherent image, but as 1,000 points of data. Blue light flooded my perception, lines of machine code scrolling over what looked like prayer scripts etched in brass. I was seeing, but not with eyes. It was a data feed, a stream of information being piped directly into my consciousness. Through the static and the scrolling text, shapes began to form. I was in a confined space, a sarcophagus of adamantium and steel. Wires and thick cables snaked around me, connecting to ports and sockets I couldn't see, but could feel, deeply, intimately. They were plugged into what was left of me. I could feel the cold, viscous fluid pumping through my new veins, a nutrient slurry that sustained the sliver of organic matter I had become. The hiss of hydraulics was my new respiration. The thrum of a plasma reactor was my new heartbeat. Voices echoed through the chamber, not through the air, but directly into my mind via a vox link. They were familiar, yet distant. The gravelly tones of Brother Sargon Kylan, the calm, measured speech of Apothecary Theron, the solemn chant of Chaplain Marius. They weren't speaking to me, but about me. The neural links are stable, Theron's voice reported. Devoid of emotion, pure clinical observation. Life signs, what remains of them, have stabilized within the sarcophagus's life support matrix. His mind, does he still dream of the battlefield? Marius asked, his voice a low rumble. His REM patterns are erratic, Chaplain. He is fighting battles in his sleep. Yes, the Primarchs only know which ones. I tried to speak, to scream, to tell them I was here, that I was awake, but I had no mouth, no vocal cords. My thoughts were a chaotic storm trapped within my metal prison. I am Vayner, of the Imperial Fists. I am not a specimen, but my desperate cries were just silent noise, lost in the hum of the machine. Then, one voice cut through the others, sharp and authoritative. It was Captain Lysander. His voice, a beacon I had followed through 100 battles, now sounded like a judge delivering a sentence. Is he ready? He is, Captain, Theron replied. The rite of waking can begin. The chamber fell silent, save for the ever-present hum of my new body. The prayer scripts in my vision glowed brighter. I felt a surge of energy, a jolt that was both agonizing and exhilarating. It was like lightning striking my soul. The machine code scrolling across my vision intensified, data flooding my mind targeting solutions, weapon statuses, power levels, structural integrity reports. My brain, my poor, organic brain, struggled to process the deluge. It was a torrent of information that threatened to drown the man I once was. And then I saw. Through a rectangular viewport, I saw the faces of my brothers gathered around me. They were looking at my new form, their expressions a mixture of awe, reverence, and pity. They weren't looking at Vayner. They were looking at a machine, a relic, a dreadnought. The truth hit me with the force of a macro cannon shell. I had not simply been saved. I had been repurposed. My broken body had been interred within this walking tomb, this 12-meter-tall war machine. The legends were true. The tales told to initiates in hushed tones were not just stories. Even in death, I still serve. The words echoed in my mind, a mantra I had recited 1,000 times, but never truly understood until this moment. A single, dominant voice resonated through my mind, overriding all other inputs. It was Chaplain Marius, his tone now one of solemn command. Brother Vayner, can you hear me? I focused all my will, all my remaining identity, and pushed a single thought through the neural link. Asterisk. Yes. Asterisk, a wave of what felt like relief washed over the assembled brothers. You fell in glorious battle, defending the Imperium against the greenskin menace. The chaplain continued, his voice a soothing balm on my fractured psyche. Your body was broken, but your spirit, your unwavering loyalty, endured. The Emperor has seen fit to grant you a new vessel, a new purpose. You are no longer just a space marine. You are an icon of vengeance, a monument to defiance. He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. My chaotic thoughts began to coalesce. The panic subsided, replaced by a grim, cold resolve. This was my new reality. I was a ghost in the machine, a mind bound to a titan of war. The tomb of iron is now your flesh, Marius declared. The fire of its reactor is your blood. Its cannons are your voice. You have it yet, Brother Vayner, and you have been reborn in steel. Through you, the Emperor's judgment will be delivered anew. Then came the words that would define the rest of my existence, the words that sealed my fate and forged my new identity. You will serve again, brother. The viewport in front of me slid open fully, revealing the vast, cathedral-like chamber of the Reclusium. The scent of incense was thick in the air. Tech priests in crimson robes moved around me, performing final rites, their mechadendrites whirring and clicking. My sarcophagus was being sealed. The finality of it was absolute. I was being entombed. My new limbs began to move, not by my conscious command, but through the pre-programmed motions of the rite of waking. A massive, ceramite-plated leg, pistoned forward, the ground shaking with the impact. A multimelta on my left arm whirred to life, its targeting systems locking onto a practice icon across the chamber. A massive siege drill on my right arm spun, its adamantium teeth glinting in the sanctified light. I was a weapon. That was all I was now. The man named Vayner, the one who remembered sunlight on the fields of his homeworld, the one who shared jokes with his squad mates, the one who felt fear and hope he was dead. What remained was an echo, a consciousness tasked with one purpose: to kill the enemies of mankind. As the tech priests and my brothers stepped back, I took another thunderous step, and then another. I was walking. I was a moving fortress, an engine of destruction. My thoughts were no longer just my own. They were intertwined with the machine spirit of the Dreadnought. It whispered to me of battle, of anger, of centuries of slumber and violent awakenings. It promised glory and vengeance. I looked down at my new hands, one a tool of obliteration, the other a fist the size of a boulder. This was my new existence, a perpetual state of war, an eternity of service from within a metal shell. The sorrow was a deep, cold ocean within me, but floating on its surface was a single, hard point of light: duty. I was an angel of death, reborn to serve the Emperor. My life was over, but my war was just beginning, and I would not fail. Aben, in death, I still serve. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the grim darkness of the 41st millennium. If you enjoy this kind of storytelling and want to explore more tales from the lore of Warhammer 40,000, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Let me know in the comments which part of the lore you'd like to see covered next. Until then, stay vigilant and praise the Emperor. Hello and welcome back to our deep dive into the grim darkness of the 41st millennium. Today, we're going to explore a story from the perspective of one of the Imperium's most venerable and tragic heroes, a Dreadnought. Imagine being sealed inside a walking sarcophagus, your body a shattered ruin, your mind a flickering candle in a hurricane of millennial memories. This is the reality for the Ancient Ones, and we are about to plug into their world. The first sensation is not one of sound, but of a deep, resonant beep. It's the hum of the machine spirit, the thrum of the plasma reactor that is now your heart. It's a constant companion, a lullaby of gears and pistons. Consciousness returns not as a gentle awakening, but as a system boot-up. Diagnostic runes flash across your vision. Reactor core, nominal. Ammunition feeds, loaded. Limb actuators, responsive. You are a weapon, and your first thought is of war. But then, through the machine's constant hum, another layer of noise emerges. It's a chorus of whispers, a network of ghosts. These are the voices of your brothers, the other ancients entombed just as you are. They speak not through the air, but through the crackle of static and the invisible tendrils of data links. A private network of the dead and the dying. You try to move, to flex a hand you no longer possess. Instead, a mighty adamantium claw, weighing several tons, clenches in response. The feedback is a dull, synthetic pressure. You look through your optical sensors, a world rendered in shades of tactical data and heat signatures. The hangar bay of the battle barge is a cathedral of steel, filled with the bustling activity of mortals. Tech priests, like red-robe insects, scurry around your feet, chanting litanies of maintenance and appeasing your machine spirit with sacred oils. You can't feel their touch. You can't smell the incense. You are a ghost, observing a world you can no longer truly be a part of. The sense of isolation is a crushing weight, heavier than your own armored shell. You were once a man, a space marine, a brother. Now, what are you? A relic, a holy weapon, a monster. A new voice cuts through the mental chatter. It's rough, ancient, like grinding stones. You recognize the signal, Signatudits, Venerable Boreas, entombed since the Scouring, a veteran of battles that are now mere legends. He doesn't speak to you directly, but his thoughts echo across the network, a broadcast for any who awake to listen. Do not envy the living, his voice rasps, a torrent of digital noise and failing voice. They scurry and fret, their hearts beating a frantic, temporary rhythm. They fear death. They do not understand. We have already passed that threshold. The living, they are already dead. They just haven't realized it yet. His words sink in, not as a comfort, but as a chilling truth. You watch a young neophyte, his face etched with awe and fear as he polishes a single greave on your leg. He is alive. He will laugh. He will feel the sun on his skin. He will share a meal with his brothers, but he will also die. His life is a fleeting spark, destined to be extinguished on some forgotten battlefield. You, however, are eternal. You have already died, and yet you persist. Is this a curse or a blessing? You try to recall your own death. The memory is a fractured mosaic of pain and fire. An orc megacannon, the shriek of tearing ceramite, the sensation of your own body being turned into a liquid ruin. Then, darkness. And then, the cold, clinical light of the apothecarian and the rite of they saved what little was left, interring your organic remnants within this life-sustaining machine. They saved you, or did they condemn you? Another voice joins the chorus. This one is calmer, more demesurate, but with an undercurrent of infinite wariness. It is ancient Titus, a warrior whose service record predates the founding of most chapters. His chassis is a patchwork of different marks, repaired and reconsecrated countless times. Sleep when you can, Brother Titus whispers, his transmission clean and precise, a stark contrast to Boreas's digital growl. The moments of slumber are a gift. Do not fight them. They are the only peace we are afforded. Do not waste your wakefulness on memory. Save it for the battlefield. There, we are alive. There, we have purpose. It continues his logic. A cold, hard comfort. War is mercy. It is the final absolution. In the heat of battle, there is no time for sorrow, no room for regret. There is only the target, the roar of your cannon, the satisfying crunch of the enemy beneath your feet. The Emperor grants us this one mercy, a worthy death in service. Our long existence is merely the wait between those moments of grace. Sleep. The sarcophagus can induce a dreamless stasis, a shutdown of all but the most essential life support functions. It's a small death, a temporary oblivion. Many ancients crave it. They slumber for decades, even centuries, only to be awakened when the chapter has need of their strength. But you resist. You fear the sleep. You fear what you might lose in that darkness. Will a piece of you, another memory of your life before, be eroded away by the long night? You focus back on the neophyte. He has finished his task and now looks up, his gaze meeting your optical sensors. He places a gaunted hand on your leg in a gesture of reverence. He doesn't see a dying man in a box. He sees a hero. He sees the embodiment of the chapter's will, an angel of death who has transcended mortal limits. Perhaps this is the purpose, not just the killing, not just the war, but this. To be a symbol, to be the anchor of the chapter's history, a living testament to its legacy of sacrifice. Every scratch and battle scar on your hull is a story, a lesson. You are the link between the past and the future. The klaxon begins to sound, a shrill, insistent alarm that cuts through the hangar's noise. Red lights flash, casting everything in a blood-red hue. Voxjetter erupts as orders are barked. Xenos contact, grid reference, Omega 7. Prepare for drop pod assault. The tech priests scuttle away. Your stasis clamps retract with a series of loud hisses and clunks. A jolt of energy courses through your systems as the reactor spools up to combat readiness. The whispers of the other dreadnoughts cease. The network falls silent. There is only one thought now. A single, unifying purpose that binds you all. War. The final checks are complete. Your sarcophagus is sealed. The drop pod doors close around you, plunging you into a temporary darkness. You feel the magnetic clamps engage. Titus was right. In this moment, the regrets and the loneliness fade. The weight of millennia lifts. There is only the anticipation, the roar of the engines, the violent shudder of atmospheric entry. War is mercy, and you are its instrument. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the mind of a dreadnought. The lore of Warhammer is filled with these incredible, tragic stories that really make you think. If you enjoyed this, please hit that like button and consider subscribing for more tales from the 41st millennium. Let me know in the comments which faction or character you'd like to see us explore next. Until then, stay safe, and may the Emperor protect. Brothers and sisters of the Imperium, gather round, for we delve into a tale of duty, death, and a long, cold slumber. Imagine a hero, a son of the Emperor, laid low in a forgotten war on a forgotten world. His armor, a sarcophagus of ceramite and plasteel, cradled his broken form. The light faded from his eyes, his duty seemingly done. For centuries, he slept the sleep of the dead, a silent monument to a battle long since lost to the mists of history. The galaxy churned, empires rose and fell, but on this desolate rock, he remained, a ghost in a metal shell, waiting. And then, the universe screamed. A new horror, a shadow in the void, descended upon his resting place. The great devourer, the tyrannid menace, had arrived. The very soil of the planet shuddered as the Hive fleet's vanguard made plan. Biomass was consumed, life was extinguished, and the world was systematically stripped bare by a tide of chittering, clawed monstrosities. The psychic gestalt of the hive mind washed over the planet, a suffocating psychic presence that snuffed out all hope. Yet, in the deepest, darkest crypt, something stirred. A flicker of life, a spark of ancient technology, responded to the encroaching threat. Deep within the Dreadnought's chassis, ancient systems whirred back to life. The sarcophagus, which had been a tomb, now became a womb of rebirth. Machine spirits, dormant for ages, awakened. Diagnostic routines, running on forgotten protocols, flooded his mind. Vital fluids were pumped into his atrophied form, and the spark of consciousness was forcibly Pain was the first sensation, a searing, all-consuming agony as his mind was dragged back from the abyss. Then came the data feeds, the tactical overlays, the cacophony of a world under siege. He was awake, not alive in the way a man of flesh and blood is, but awake, a relic, a weapon, reanimated for one purpose. The crypt doors, sealed for centuries, were blasted open from within. He emerged, a titan of adamantium and fury, into a world transformed into a Xenos nightmare. The sky was a sickly purple, choked with spores. The ground squirmed with feeder organisms. And everywhere, the endless tide of the Tyranid swarm. Gaunts, Hormagaunts, warriors. A sea of claws and teeth surged towards him. His mighty assault cannon began to spin, its barrels glowing with righteous heat. The machine spirit sang its song of war, a hymn of retribution that had been silent for far too long. He was a dreadnought. He was wrath incarnate. His long slumber was over, and the Xenos would know his fury. With heavy, thudding steps that shook the very ground, he strode into the heart of the swarm. He was a bastion of imperial might against an ocean of alien flesh. His assault cannon spat a torrent of explosive shells, each one a prayer to the god Emperor. Xenos' bodies were torn asunder, their ichor painting the blighted landscape. His other arm, a massive dreadnought close combat weapon, crushed and pulverized anything that dared to get close. He fought with the cold, calculated efficiency of a machine. Yet beneath it all, a sliver of the man he once was burned with righteous hatred. He was an island of defiance in a sea of despair, a testament to the indomitable will of mankind. Through the chittering horde, he saw his true target, a monster of immense size and terrifying power, a living siege engine of the hive mind. A carnif. Its bioplasma cannons glowed with unnatural energy, and its scything talons, each the size of a man, dripped with corrosive venom. This was not just a beast, it was a linchpin of the Tyranid assault, a creature of singular destructive purpose. For the nameless hero, it was a worthy foe, a challenge to test the limits of his resurrected might. He locked onto the beast, his targeting reticles glowing red. Ignoring the lesser creatures clawing at his legs, he advanced, his every system dedicated to the destruction of this one monstrous creature. The duel was a clash of titans. The Carnifex unleashed a searing blast of bioplasma, a glob of molten energy that slammed into the Dreadnought's chassis. Armor plating, forged in the fires of Mars, glowed white-hot and buckled under the strain. Alarms blared within his cockpit, but he ignored them. He pushed forward, weathering the storm, his own cannons returning fire with relentless precision. Shells hammered against the Carnifex's thick carapace, cracking the chitinous plates. The beast roared in fury and charged, its massive form a biological battering ram. The Dreadnought braced himself, planting his feet, preparing for the cataclysmic impact. This was a battle between the pinnacle of Imperial warcraft and the apex of Xenos evil. The impact was thunderous. Metal shrieked against chitin. As the two behemoths collided, the Dreadnought's power fist slammed into the Carnifex's side, crushing bone and pulping alien flesh. The monster retaliated, its talons gouging deep furrows into the Dreadnought's armor. For a moment, they were locked in a brutal, static embrace, a deadly dance of death. He could feel the creature's immense strength, the sheer biological imperative to kill and consume. But he was more than flesh. He was iron and fire and faith. With a final surge of power, he drove his assault cannon's barrels directly into the Carnifex's gaping maw and pulled the trigger. The roar of the cannon became a final, explosive prayer. The Carnifex's head erupted in a shower of gore and splintered bone. The colossal body convulsed and then crashed to the ground, its death bellow silenced forever. The psychic pressure of the hive mind seemed to momentarily recede in this sector, confused by the loss of its prime warrior beast. The remaining Tyranids faltered, their connection to the swarm consciousness disrupted. For a moment an eerie silence descended upon the battlefield, broken only by the hiss of cooling metal from the Dreadnought's own frame and the distant chittering of the retreating swarm. He had won. He stood victorious over the corpse of a monster, a solitary giant on a field of carnage. And in that silence, a new horror crept in. He looked down at the slain beast, then at his own colossal, weaponized hands. He accessed his internal logs, his memory banks, searching for context, for a name. He tried to remember the brothers who fought beside him, the ones he was avenging. Nothing. He tried to recall the name of this planet he had just defended with such ferocity. Nothing. The centuries of slumber, the traumatic reawakening, had scoured his mind clean. He was a weapon without a wielder, a hero without a history. All that remained was the instinct to fight, the duty to kill the enemies of man. He was an ancient, a relic, and he was utterly terrifyingly alone. His memories lost to the void, just another ghost in the machine. Thank you so much for joining me on this Grimdark journey. The story of this forgotten hero is a testament to the endless sacrifices made in the 41st millennium. If you enjoyed this tale, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel for more Warhammer lore. Let me know in the comments what you think of this Dreadnought. It's a tragic fate. Until next time, may the Emperor protect. The silence between battles is the loudest sound in the universe. In those fleeting moments of quiet, when the last bolt shell has found its home and the fires of war burn low, I, Vayner of the Imperial Fists, am allowed the luxury of closing my eyes. But I do not dream of glory. I do not see the Emperor's golden light or recall the thrill of the charge. No, in the abyss of my genetically engineered slumber, I dream of a phantom warmth, a ghost of human touch I can no longer truly feel. It's a memory of a memory, a sensation as alien to me, now as peace. My mind, a fortress built to withstand psychic assault and the horrors of the void, is slowly, inexorably, succumbing to a different kind of decay. It's not the glorious decay of a battle-scarred dreadnought, but a quiet, insidious corrosion. Like rust on ceramite, my memories flake away, piece by piece, century by century. I try to hold on to them, to grasp the fragments of the boy I once was, but they turn to dust in my thoughts. What was the name of the hive city I was taken from? The spires... ... Were they gray or silver? Did they pierce clouds of toxic smog or a sky of brilliant blue? The details blur. A watercolor painting left out in the rain. I strain to remember the sound of that rain. Was it a gentle patter against a window ping, or a torrential downpour that hammered against ferrocrete? The sound eludes me, replaced by the ringing in my ODL sensors, the constant hum of the battle barge plasma drives, the remembered screams of the dying. I remember my mother's face, but it is a sculpture, not a living thing. The lines are there, the shape of her eyes, but the emotion, the life behind them, it's gone. Did she weep when the chaplains came for me? Did she smile with pride? I see only a stoic mask, a face from an Imperial-picked capture, frozen in time and stripped of meaning. The love, the fear, the hope she must have felt are concepts I understand intellectually, but the feeling is a dead language I no longer speak. They say, an Astartes knows no fear. It is not fear that I feel, but a profound, hollow emptiness, a void where a soul used to be. I look at my gauntlets, these magnificent, brutal tools of war, and I remember them holding a child's toy, a roughly carved piece of wood, I think. What was it? A predator from my homeworld's jungles, or perhaps a likeness of an Imperial knight. The shape is lost to me. All I know is that these hands, which can crush a traitor's helmet or steady a swaying bastion wall, once held something small and insignificant with tenderness. That tenderness is now a foreign country. I try to recall the taste of real food, not the nutrient paste, the gray, efficient slurry that fuels my transhuman body, but bread. Simple, baked bread. Was it warm? Did it have a hard crust? Did the steam that rose from it carry a scent? My olfactory sensors can detect 1,000 different chemical compounds. The ozone Thames of a discharging power weapon, the coppery stench of Xenos blood, but they cannot conjure the simple, honest smell of a loaf cooling on a stone. And the sun, oh, Terra, the sun of my long-lost homeworld. The data slate in my personal log tells me it was a Geat-type main sequence star. But that means nothing. Was its light a harsh, white glare, or a soft, golden glow? Did it warm my skin? I look out of the flagship's observation portal at the swirling chaos of the warp, at distant, uncaring stars, and I cannot remember what it felt like to stand under my own sun. My skin, pale and crisscrossed with scars and subdermal plating, has not felt natural sunlight in centuries. It has been baked by muzzle flare and bathed in the cold light of hololiths, but the simple warmth of a home star is a pleasure reserved for the mortals I am sworn to protect. The other battle brothers, do they feel this? We do not speak of it. To voice such thoughts would be a weakness, a crack in the armor of our devotion. We speak of tactics, of weapon maintenance, of the glorious history of our chapter. We share silent nods in the apothecarium and recite litanies in the chapel. We are brothers, united in purpose, but we are islands of isolated consciousness. Each of us is adrift in his own personal sea of forgotten memories. Perhaps their seas are calmer than mine, or perhaps they have simply learned to stop fighting the tide. All that is left, all that remains sharp and clear and undeniable, is duty. Duty is the rock against which the waves of time break and shatter. Duty is the catechism I recite when the phantom pains of my past ache. Duty is the cold, hard certainty in a universe of forgotten sensations. I am a weapon, a shield. I am the Emperor's wrath made manifest. I exist to stand between humanity and the dark. This I know. This I remember with perfect clarity. The klaxon. Blares. The red light of battle alert washes over the corridor, painting everything in the color of blood. The Vox crackles to life in my helmet, a sergeant barking coordinates and enemy dispositions. My body responds instantly, muscles coiling, senses sharpening. The Vayner who dreamt of warmth is gone, submerged beneath the rust of memory is scoured away by the fire of purpose. As I lock and load my bolter, the familiar weight a comfort in my hands. I feel not joy, not anger, not even hatred. I feel only the pull of duty. It is the only real thing I have left, for the Emperor, and for an Imperium whose reign I can no longer remember. Now, let us bring them the Emperor's light. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the heart of a space marine. If you appreciate these deeper dives into the lore and the souls of those who fight for humanity, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Your support allows me to continue exploring the vast, grim darkness of the 41st millennium. Until next time, stay behealand. Forge light flickers across the sacred oils and blessed unguents. Vayner's sarcophagus, a monument of adamantium and ceramite, lies open in the heart of the Omnissiah's temple forge. Centuries of battle have taken their toll. Scars from orc, choppas and claw marks from tyrannid monstrosities mar its surface. The forge adepts, their mechadendrites worry and clicking in a symphony of repair, move with a reverence reserved for holy relics. To them, the Dreadnought is not just a war machine. It is a vessel of ancient wisdom, a living link to the chapter's glorious past. They chant litanies of maintenance, their binary prayers echoing in the vast, vaulted chamber, polishing the iconography, reconsecrating the purity seals, recalibrating the twin-linked autocannons. Each task is a sacred rite. The spirit of the machine, the motive force, must be appeased. The hero interred within, Brother Vayner, must be honored. Aes allegiandae, bulwark against the darkness, a testament to the undying will of the Adeptus. His sacrifice is the bedrock upon which the chapter's victories are built. The adepts work tirelessly, ensuring he will be ready to walk again, to bring the Emperor's righteous fury to the Xenos and the heretic once more. As a tech priest inspects the intricate web of cabling that connects the sarcophagus to the pilot, his optical sensors detect an anomaly. He runs a diagnostic canticle, his voice a monotone hum of code. The results flicker across his data slate, a string of glyphs that cause his internal chronometers to stutter. He runs the diagnostic again. The result is the same. There are stress fractures, microscopic fissures, not on the outer shell, but deep within the neural link itself. This is highly unusual. The link is the most sacred and complex part of the entire machine, the bridge between flesh and steel, man and god. And these fractures are not the result of external damage. They are not from the shock of plasma blasts or the concussive force of artillery. No, the data suggests they are internal, originating from the pilot's side of the connection. It's as if a great force, a psychic or spiritual pressure, has been pushing against the interface from within. The tech priest shares his findings with the Forge Master, a wizened figure whose organic parts are now little more than a memory. The Forge Master's own mechadendrites probe the interface, his augmented senses confirming the disturbing truth. The fractures are evidence of resistance. Vayner's mind, the mind of a hero who has fought for the Imperium for 700 years, is actively fighting the integration. It is pushing back against the machine's spirit, rejecting the very systems that grant him eternal life and service. This is beyond a mere system malfunction. This is a spiritual crisis, a flaw in the very soul of the Union. The adepts gather their red robes a stark contrast to the cold steel of the workshop. They murmur in binary, their logid engines struggling to process this impossibility. Why would a hero resist his sacred duty? They decide to monitor the sarcophagus's internal voxcaster, hoping to glean some insight from Vayner's slumbering thoughts. For days, there is only the low hum of the stasis field and the whisper of life support. The adepts wait, their patience as enduring as the adamantium they forge. They are accustomed to the silences of the machine, to the long waits between battles. They are the guardians of these ancient warriors, and their watch is eternal. But the silence that emanates from Vayner's tomb feels different. It is not peaceful. It is heavy, laden with a sorrow that seems to seep into the very air of the forge. Then, one cycle, a sound breaks the quiet. It's a whisper, faint and raspy, distorted by the vox. The adepts lean closer, their audio receptors straining. The words are barely coherent, a ghost of a voice from a bygone age. It speaks in low Gothic, the words slurred by centuries of disuse and the fog of stasis. At first, they think it's a corrupted data stream, a glitch in the system. But as the whisper repeats, the horrifying meaning becomes clear. It is Vayner, and he is speaking the ultimate heresy, a sentiment so alien to the ethos of the Space Marines and the Mechanicus that it borders on blasphemy. Wish to die. The words hang in the air, a chilling profanity in the holy space of the forge. Die, an Adeptus Astartes does not asterisk. Die, asterisk. He serves, and when his body is broken, he serves still, encased in the blessed shell of a dreadnought, his duty eternal. To wish for death is to reject the Emperor's gift, to deny the purpose for which he was made. It is a failure of will, a spiritual corruption that is unthinkable for a hero of Vayner's stature. The Forge adepts recoil as if struck, their binary canticles falter. For a moment, there is only stunned silence. The Forge Master is the first to react. His logic dictates a swift and decisive response. This asterisk sentiment, asterisk, cannot be allowed to fester. It is a weakness, a flaw in the system that must be corrected. Is it a cognitive decay? A side effect of centuries of warfare? Or something more sinister? A psychic taint from some foul psyker or demonic entity he faced in a forgotten war? The possibilities are debated in hurried, clipped bursts of binary. The implications are terrifying. If a hero like Vayner can fall to such despair, what does that say about the very nature of their eternal service? They cannot destroy the Dreadnought. He is too valuable, too much a part of the chapter's history and military might. They cannot report this to the chapter command, for it would cast a shadow of doubt and shame upon them all. And they certainly cannot allow Vayner to voice this heresy on the battlefield, where it could poison the morale of his brothers. The Forge Master makes a cold, logical decision. The heresy is a symptom of a fatigued spirit. The mind is weak because it has been awake for too long. Shantuk Moch. The solution, therefore, is not spiritual, but technical. With silent, efficient movements, the adepts recalibrate the sarcophagus's stasis controls. They do not repair the neural fractures. Instead, they bypass the immediate issue. They increase the duration and depth of Vayner's stasis sleep. He will dreamless, thoughtless, for longer periods between activations. His moments of consciousness, his time to think and to feel, will be drastically reduced. He will be called upon only in the most dire of circumstances, woken for the battle, and then put immediately back to sleep. He will become less of a conscious warrior and more of a weapon, a tool to be deployed and then stored. As the lid of the sarcophagus is lowered, sealing Vayner once more in his cold, dark prison, the whispers cease. The adepts anoint the final seal, their chance of maintenance resuming, but with a new, somber tone. They have not solved the problem. They have merely hidden it, buried it under layers of stasis and denial. They have silenced the hero's plea for peace, condemning him to an eternity of forced service. His silent scream trapped within the iron shell, the forge returns to its work. The sounds of hammers and worry machinery drowning out the memory of that terrible, heretical whisper. Vayner is silent now, but the fractures in his soul remain, a hidden wound in the heart of the mighty Dreadnought. Thanks for watching, everyone. It's a dark universe out there, and stories like Vayner's really show the grim side of eternal service. If you enjoyed this dive into the lore, please hit that like button and subscribe for more tales from the 41st millennium. Let me know in the comments what you think about the fate of Dread. We'll see you in the next one. Vayner's senses screamed him back to consciousness. The blare of klaxons and the frantic thud of boots on steel plating were a familiar, dreaded lullaby. He was being dragged from the precious, fleeting moments of slumber once more. He rose from his slab, the cold metal groaning under the weight of his augmented form. His machine body, a testament to the Iron Hand's relentless pursuit of perfection. Word to life. Its systems flooding his mind with tactical data. The Vornak Reach was under attack. Again, chaos. The word tasted like ash in his mouth. A metaphysical corruption that logic could not fully parse, but that his bolter could certainly answer. He stalked through the corridors of the Iron Resolve Asterisk, his massive frame a symbol of unyielding strength to the Space Marines who parted before him. Their faces, a mixture of grim determination and reverence, looked to him for guidance. Vayner was more than their leader. He was a relic of a bygone era, a walking legend whose very presence could turn the tide of despair. He reached the command deck. The main hololith flickered, displaying the horrifying reality outside. The void, once black and serene, was now a swirling vortex of impossible colors and raw psychic energy. Warships, twisted into grotesque parodies of Imperial design, spewed forth hordes of cultists and demonic entities. Their target was clear. The primary bastion. On Vornak 3. Status report. Vayner's voice was a low growl, a synthesized rasp of metal on metal. A tech marine, his own augmentations a pale imitation of Vayner's, turned from a console. Lord, the enemy has bypassed our outer defenses. They're making a direct assault on the citadel of Adamant. Warp signatures are off the charts. We're detecting a significant demonic incursion, led by a high-tier entity, a demon prince. Vayner's optical sensors narrowed. This was not a mere raid. It was a full-scale invasion. An attempt to carve out another festering wound in the fabric of the galaxy. Prepare for teleport insertion. I will lead the counter-assault myself, Vayner declared. There were no arguments. No sec. His word was law, as immutable as the iron from which his legion took its name. He strode to the teleportarium, the heavy clang of his footsteps a death knell for his enemies. His personal guard, the revered Morlocks, fell into step behind him, their Terminator armor making the deck tremble. They were the hammer, and Vayner was the anvil upon which chaos would be broken. The world dissolved into a blinding flash of light and a nauseating lurch. One moment, he was in the sterile environment of the Iron Resolve Asterisk. The next, he was in hell. The air on Vornak 3 was thick with a stench of blood and ozone. The sky churned with unnatural storms, and the ground was littered with the bodies of defenders and attackers alike. The battle was already a maelstrom of bolter fire, chainsword roars, and the unholy shrieks of demons. Vayner immediately identified the epicenter of the psychic storm. There, standing atop a mound of corpses, was the demon prince. It was a creature of nightmares, a fusion of warped flesh, twisted metal, and pure malevolence. Its skin writhed with captured souls, and its eyes burned with the fire of 1,000 years of hatred. It wielded a massive, pulsating axe that dripped with corruption, and its laughter echoed with the torment of the damned. For the Emperor, and for Ferrisman, Vayner's war cry cut through the din, amplified by his voxcaster. He charged, his personal force field shimmering as it deflected Lossphere and psychic bolts. His Morlocks formed a wedge around him, their stormbolters spitting a torrent of death at the lesser demons that swarmed them. The ground shook with every step Vayner took, his immense power a gravitational point in the chaos of battle. The demon prince turned its baleful gaze upon him, its lips curling into a cruel sneer. Ah, the Iron Father, the broken son of a broken Primarch. You have come to die, little machine. It raised its axe, and the air crackled with dark energy. Vayner didn't waste breath on a reply. His actions would be his answer. He fired his integrated storm bolter, the explosive shells peppering the creature's hide, but they detonated with little effect against its unnatural resilience. They met in a cataclysmic clash. Vayner's Thunderhammer, asterisk, Forgebreakers, Echo asterisk, met the demon's axe in a shower of sparks that were both physical and imperial. The impact sent a shockwave that flattened friend and foe alike for dozens of meters. The demon prince was impossibly strong, its power fueled by the raw stuff of the warp. It pushed Vayner back, its strength seemingly limitless. But Vayner was no mere mortal. He was the embodiment of the Iron Hand's creed. The flesh is weak. He had purged emotion, excised doubt, and replaced them with cold, hard logic and unyielding steel. He analyzed his opponent's every move, his cogitators processing attack patterns and identifying weaknesses at a speed no organic mind could match. He was a machine of war, perfect and precise. 4 hours, the duel raged. Vayner was a fortress of iron, weathering every blow, parrying every strike. They took wounds, his ancient armor scoring and buckling under the force of the demon's attacks. Shrapnel from a Nermus blast sheared through a power conduit in his leg, causing his systems to flicker. A wave of red warning runes flashed across his vision. Asterisk, power fluctuation, critical motor functions, compromised. Asterisk. He ignored the warnings. Pain was a data point, an indicator of fleshly weakness that he had long since mastered. He fought on, his movements becoming more deliberate, more economical. He could feel his machine body, the vessel he had trusted for centuries, beginning to fail him. The strain was immense. The demon, sensing his faltering state, pressed its advantage. It slammed its axe down, forcing Vayner to one knee. "See," the creature hissed, its foul breath washing over Vayner's helmet. "Your precious machine fails you. All things decay, all things fall to chaos. Your quest for perfection is a fool's errand." It laughed, a sound that grated on the soul. But in that moment of gloating, it made a mistake. It left itself open for a fraction of a second. It was all Vayner needed. With a surge of desperate strength, he roared and swung asterisk Forgebreakers. Echo asterisk in a low, brutal arc. The hammer connected with the demon prince's knee, shattering bone and ichor-filled flesh. The creature screamed, a sound of genuine agony this time, and stumbled. Vayner pressed the attack. He rose, ignoring the screaming alarms in his own body, and slammed his metal fist into the demon's face. He pummeled it again and again, his iron gauntlet crunching through its monstrous features. The demon prince flailed, its power waning as its physical form was savaged. Vayner grabbed it by its horned head, his servomotor straining as he forced the beast to the ground. He raised his gauntlet, the metal groaning under the immense pressure he was exerting. With one final, titanic effort, he brought his hand down. There was a sickening crack as the demon prince's skull imploded. A wave of psychic energy erupted from the dying creature, washing over Vayner. The remaining demons on the battlefield shrieked and dissolved back into the Imperium as their master was vanquished. The battle was won, but as the creature's essence dissipated, a final, insidious whisper wormed its way directly into Vayner's consciousness, bypassing his Voxen helmet. It wasn't a shout of defiance, but a quiet, chilling statement of fact. "You are my brother, trapped in endless flesh." The words struck Vayner with more force than any physical blow. His systems finally gave out. He collapsed beside the corpse of his enemy, his world going dark. For the first time in centuries, the Iron Father felt something other than cold logic. He felt a sliver of doubt, a chilling echo of the demon's final proclamation. "Brother, trapped." The words haunted him as he plunged into the blackness of forced stasis. leaving him alone with a question that steel could not answer and logic could not solve. Thanks so much for joining us for this chapter of the saga. The lore of this universe is truly epic, and we love exploring it with you. If you enjoyed the story, please hit that like button. The roar of battle fades. The acrid smell of spent Promethium and Xenos blood slowly gives way to the sterile, recycled air of the chapter monastery. Silence, a silence more profound, more deafening than any explosion, settles over the battlefield within his mind. The psychic echoes of his fallen brothers, their last moments of defiance and pain, finally begin to recede. For the first time in what feels like an eternity, there is a measure of peace. He sleeps. Not the brief, restless slumber of a mortal man, but the long, dreamless stasis of a machine of war being repaired and refitted. The servitors and tech priests move around his colossal form like pilot fish around a leviathan. They mend the fractured ceramite of his sarcophagus, recalibrate the odosenses, and chant litanies of maintenance to the machine spirit that is now his only constant companion. The days blur into weeks, the weeks into months. He is a monument to a battle that is already fading into legend. Decades pass. The galaxy continues its endless, brutal waltz. New wars erupt on forgotten worlds. Empires rise and fall in the cosmic dust, and the Imperium grinds on, fueled by faith and the blood of its countless soldiers. Within the fortress monastery, names are added to the rolls of honor, and new aspirants arrive to take the place of the fallen. He sleeps through it all, a silent sentinel in the reclusium, his sarcophagus adorned with purity seals and honors he can no longer truly appreciate. Then, one day a jolt, a surge of bioelectrical current through his interred form, the rite of awakening. His autosenses flicker to life, painting the world in stark, monochromatic data streams. The air tastes different. The low hum of the monastery's power core has a slightly different pitch. Voices. New voices. They are deep, resonant, and filled with the characteristic reverence of Astartes. Yet they are unfamiliar. The ancient stirs. One voice rumbles. The chapter has need of his wisdom and his might once more. His last engagement was at the gates of Varl, another adds, the tone laced with awe. He stood against the Orkwog. That broke the Third Company, a true hero of the Imperium. He tries to access his own memories, to place these voices. The data files are there, but the emotional context is distant. He remembers the mud of Varl, the green tide, the feel of his chainsword biting into flesh. He remembers the moment his body was broken, the overwhelming agony that gave way to this cold, mechanical existence. But the faces of his brothers, their names, they are like faded picked captures, losing their clarity with each passing century. Ancient Vayner. A new voice addresses him directly. It is the chapter master, his armor gleaming, his face a mask of stern duty. We face the tendrils of a tyrannid splinter fleet. Your experience against the great devourer is invaluable. Will you march to war with us? Ancient Vayner. The name echoes in the hollow chambers of his mind. He was Vayner. Yes, just Vayner. A simple foot soldier from a hive world now lost to time. He had a family once, a life before the black carapace and the gene seed. Where are those memories? Buried under layers of duty, war, and the crushing weight of time itself. His voxcaster crackles to life. The sound a harsh burst of static before it resolves into a synthesized, booming monotone. I will serve. The words are automatic, the ingrained response of a soldier who knows nothing else. But as he speaks them, a profound loneliness washes over him, a cold more piercing than the void of space. He is deployed. The battlefield is a maelstrom of alien horrors and disciplined bolter fire. He moves with a terrible, ponderous grace, his twin-linked lascanans scything through swarms of gaunts, his dreadnought-sized power fist crushing carnifexes with contemptuous ease. He is magnificent. He is a god of war, an avatar of the Emperor's wrath made manifest. The young space marines fighting alongside him, generations removed from his own, shout his name with veneration. For Ancient Vayner, For the chapter, they see a legend, a relic of a glorious past. They see the victories, the accumulated honors etched onto his adamantium shell. They do not see the man inside. They cannot comprehend the curse of his existence. To see generations of your brothers, your true family, live, fight, and die. To watch their faces blur, their names fade, until they are just entries in a digital codex. To be the sole keeper of memories that no one else can share or understand. After the battle, the cycle repeats. Silence, stasis, the long sleep. He wakes again, decades, perhaps a century later. The faces are different again. The livery of the chapter has been subtly altered. New honorifics have been added to his sarcophagus, marking battles he barely recalls. The new generation speaks of ancient Vayner as if he were a myth, a figure from the dawn of the chapter's history. His human name, the one his mother gave him, is gone, lost. Not even he is certain he remembers it correctly anymore. It is a whisper from a forgotten dream. He has become a living monument, a weapon to be unsheathed when needed and returned to its sheath when the war is done. He has achieved a form of immortality, the dream of so many ancient Terran kings, but it is a gilded cage. He has outlived everything he ever loved, everything that made him human. His reward for ultimate sacrifice is an eternity of loneliness, a perpetual witness to the fading of his own past. He is the curse of immortality, clad in ceramite and powered by grief, forever marching in the name of an Imperium that has forgotten the man he once was. Thanks for joining me on this journey into the grim darkness of the 41st millennium. If you enjoyed this piece of lore, remember to hit that like button, subscribe for more tales from the Imperium, and ring that notification bell. Let me know in the comments what other stories you'd like to see explored. Until next time, may the Emperor protect. The silence of the stasis script shatters. Alarms shriek, a cacophony of urgent, synthesized voices. Reporting system activations. For the first time in centuries, I am awake. Awareness floods back, a brutal torrent of data streams, tactical overlays, and diagnostic reports. I am Vayner. I am ancient. I am encased in adamantium and ceramite, a walking sarcophagus, armed for eternal war. My senses are no longer my own. They are Auspex scanners, thermal imagers, and voxcasters. The world is a grid of threats and objectives. My purpose is singular: to serve the Emperor, to destroy his enemies. The drop pod screams through the atmosphere, a meteor of righteous fury. The impact is a Titanese hammer blow, shaking the very foundations of this heretic world. The doors blast open. The air is thick with the stench of corruption and cordite. My brothers, the angels of redemption, pour out into the maelstrom. Their bolters roar a hymn of death. I join the chorus. My assault cannon spins to life, spitting a storm of explosive shells that tears through the traitor lines. My power feist, wreathed in crackling energy, pulverizes armor and bone with contemptuous ease. We are the Emperor's wrath made manifest. We are invincible. 4 days. We fight. The battlefield is a canvas painted with fire and blood. I am a tireless engine of destruction. I feel no pain, no fatigue, only the cold hard logic of combat. Xenos, heretics, demons they, all break against my unyielding advance. I calculate firing solutions in microseconds, prioritize targets with machine-like efficiency. I am the perfect weapon, honed over millennia of conflict. The fleshy, fragile beings I once was are a distant echo, a ghost in the machine. Memories surface like fragmented data shards, a sun-drenched field, the warmth of a fire, a woman's smile. I dismiss them. They are weaknesses. They are irrelevant to the mission. The Emperor demands sacrifice, and I have given all. But the tide of war is a cruel and fickle thing. The enemy is endless, a seething tide of hatred. My brothers fall. I see their life signs wink out on my tactical display, one by one. The Voxnet fills with their final, defiant cries. I register the losses, recalculate probabilities, and continue the fight. Emotion is a luxury the dead cannot afford, and I have been dead for a very, very long time. A plasma blast shears through my left leg actuator. I stumble, but do not fall. My auto-repair systems cauterize the wounds, rerouting power. Another hit, this time to my primary sensor array. The world dissolves into a blizzard of static. I switch to secondary systems. I am damaged, but not broken. I will fight until my core reactor fails. We are pushed back. The chapel barracks becomes our last redoubt. The wounded are tended to by the apothecaries, their armor scarred and stained. Among them is a chaplain, his skull helm a stark beacon of faith in the gloom. He moves from warrior to warrior, his voice a low, steady murmur, reciting the litanies of faith. He approaches my crippled form. Though my external audio receptors are damaged, the vibrations of his voice resonate through my chassis. He begins to read from the Book of Litanies. His voice, it's familiar. It cuts through the cold logic and the machine code. It's a key unlocking a door I thought was sealed forever. The voice is not just a sound. It's a memory of a different time, a different life, a life before the black carapace and the iron shell. I remember a boy, small and earnest, his face smudged with dirt from working the fields on my family's estate. He would follow me around, his eyes wide with admiration. He was my serf's grandson. I taught him to read, using the very same litanies. This chaplain now recites. The boy's name was Elian. Could it be? Centuries have passed. Generations have lived and died. But the voice, it's his. That same earnest tone, that same quiet strength. A flicker deep within the cold, mechanical heart of the Dreadnought. Something sparks. It's not a data string or a tactical protocol. It's a feeling. Warmth. I remember his laughter, a bright, clear sound in the summer air. I remember sitting with him by a stream, pointing out the letters in a worn, leather-bound book. I remember the pride in his grandfather's eyes. I remember being human. For the first time in an age, a thought forms that is not about war, or duty, or vengeance. It is a question, a single, fragile query from the ghost of the man I was. Elian. The word is a guttural burst of static from my voxcaster, distorted and barely recognizable. The chaplain pauses. He looks up at my battered, imposing form. He could not possibly understand. To him, I am a holy relic, a weapon of the chapter. But in that moment, the tactical overlays fade. The threat assessments vanish. The clamor of battle recedes to a distant hum. All that remains is the image of a boy's smiling face, a memory of sunlight on a green field. The machine is silent, and for a fleeting, precious instant, Vayner, the man, is alive. The battle for the chapel is not over. The war for the galaxy will never end. But in the heart of this ancient warrior, a different battle has just been won. The flicker of humanity, long thought extinguished, now burns, and it is brighter than any star. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the grim darkness of the 41st millennium. If you enjoyed this story, please show your support by hitting that like button, subscribing to the channel, and ringing the notification bell, so you don't miss our next tale from the world of Warhammer. Your support helps us bring more of these stories to life. For the Emperor, and we'll see you in the next one. The roar of the plasma cannon was a familiar, brutal symphony, one that had echoed in Vayner's helm for more than 4 centuries. Each blast tore through the Katina's hordes, leaving molten craters in the writhing sea of claws and teeth. But for every 10 Xenos he annihilated, 100 more swarmed over the fallen, their shrieks a cacophony of alien hunger. The air, thick with the stench of ozone and burned flesh, vibrated with the relentless thud of their advance. His armor's diagnostic runes flickered a frantic, angry red across his retinal display. Catastrophic power failure imminent. The machine spirit of his venerable Terminator plate, a companion through countless wars, was screaming its death throes. Every joint movement was a grinding protest, every weapon cycle a gamble. He could feel the cold of the void seeping through the compromised seals, a stark contrast to the boiling heat of the failing reactor core at his back. This world, once a verdant jewel, was now a dying ember. Its skies were choked with black smoke, its cities reduced to skeletal ruins. They had been sent to defend it, a bastion against the encroaching darkness. But the darkness had proven too vast, too ravenous. The Imperial Guard regiments had been shattered in the first week. The planetary defense forces, consumed. Now, only his squad remained, a handful of angels and ceramite, fighting a battle that was already lost. "Brother Sargon?" The voice of young Lacaean crackled through the vox, strained with exertion. "The northern bastion is overrun. We can't hold them." Another voice, grizzled and calm, that of veteran Brother Kalen, followed. "Southern flank is collapsing. They're coming through the underlevels. We're being encircled." Vayner looked at the tactical display. Red icons swarmed to their position, a relentless tide that had finally breached their last seawall. There was no holding this. There was no victory to be had. Only death. But it could be a death with purpose. He anchored his feet, the ancient plate groaning in protest. He leveled his storm bolter, unleashing a torrent of explosive rounds into the nearest wave, shredding a path of gore through the attackers. The weapon clicked, empty. Aid dropped it, the clang barely audible over the din of battle. His left fist, a thunderhammer that had crushed champions and shattered war machines, felt impossibly heavy. "All brothers," Vayner's voice boomed through the shared Vox channel, steady and clear, cutting through the panic. "Withdraw. Fall back to the Thunderhawk. Evacuate this world." Silence. A stunned, disbelieving silence that lasted only a heartbeat. "Sergeant." It was Lycaon. Again, his voice cracking. "We do not leave our brothers behind. We fight with you." "That is an order, Brother Lycaon," Vayner said, his tone leaving no room for argument. "Your duty now is to live, to carry our legacy, to fight another day. The iron vengeance cannot be lost for a lost cause." He could almost feel their conflict, their ingrained loyalty warring with the direct command of their sergeant, a command he had never given before. In 400 years, he had never ordered a retreat that he was not leading. "Go," he repeated, softer this time. "Kalen, get him out of here. That is my final command." A pause, then Kellen's resigned reply. "It will be done, Sergeant. For the Emperor." Vayner watched the blue icons representing his squad begin their fighting withdrawal on his tactical map. They were good soldiers, the best. They would obey. They would survive. He turned his attention back to the encroaching horde. The aliens were just meters away now, a wall of snapping jaws and glistening talons. The lead creature, a monstrous beast with scythe-like arms, lunged at him. Vayner swung his thunderhammer in a final, devastating arc. The impact was titanic. The creature exploded in a shower of ichor and splintered bone, the percussive blast of the hammer's energy field clearing a small circle around him. But it was only a moment's reprieve. The gap was filled instantly. Claws screeched against his ceramite, seeking purchase. A dozen, then 50, then 100 bodies piled onto him, their weight immense. His failing systems finally gave out. The retinal display went dark. The rebreather hissed its last. The familiar hum of the power pack died, replaced by an ominous, rising whine. His reactor was going critical. Trapped in the darkness of his helm, pinned beneath a mountain of alien flesh, Vayner was utterly alone. He could no longer see the battle, no longer hear the roar of guns. All that was left was the pressure, the crushing weight, and the sound of his own slow, measured breaths. And for the first time in centuries, for the first time since he was a boy in a world long since turned to dust, Vayner felt peace. There were no more orders to give, no more strategies to formulate, no more brothers to lead into the meat grinder. His long watch was over. He had run the race. He had kept the faith. His duty was done. He thought of the faces of his brothers, young Lycaons, fiery zeal. Kellen's weary wisdom. They would carry on. They would remember. That was enough. In the silent, suffocating dark, a prayer formed on his lips, not to the distant emperor on his golden throne, but a quiet whisper to the void itself. A prayer of thanks for the brotherhood. For the honor. For the chance to stand as a bulwark against the night, even if just for a little while. A small smile touched his lips, hidden by the grim visage of his helmet. The rising whine of his reactor reached its crescendo. Then there was only light, a silent, all-consuming sun that blossomed in the heart of the swarm, vaporizing everything in a final, glorious act of defiance. On the auspex of the ascending Thunderhawk, a single, massive energy bloom flared and then faded, taking 1,000 enemy signals with it. The last prayer had been answered. Thank you for joining us for this tale from the grim darkness of the far future. If you enjoyed this story, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more lore and narratives. Your support allows us to continue bringing these epic sagas to life. Until next time, stay vigilant. 0 o'clock to 0:15. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we re-dive in deep into the grim darkness of the 41st millennium to tell a story not of glorious victory, but of a quiet, personal release. From an eternity of war, this is the tale of an ancient, a hero of the Imperium, and his final, fleeting moments of freedom. 0:15, 1 o'clock for 10,000 years. He had been the machine. Encased in adamantium and ceramite, his life was a relentless cycle of stasis and slaughter. He was a dreadnought, a walk-in sarcophagus, armed with the fury of a bygone age. His memories, once a vibrant tapestry of brotherhood and battle, had long since faded into a blur of fragmented data ghosts and combat imperatives. He was a weapon, a relic, a symbol. He had forgotten the man he once was. He had forgotten his own name, subsumed by the litanies of maintenance and the roar of his cannons. 1 o'clock, 1:45, his chapter revered him. Te Kayedim venerable, ancient, honored one. They would awaken him when their need was greatest, unleashing his righteous fury upon the enemies of mankind. He fought Xenos horrors on worlds of choking ash and heretics in the shadows of desecrated cathedrals. Each battle was a fresh wound, a new layer of scars on a soul already buried deep beneath a mountain of duty. With every activation, the machine grew stronger, and the echo of the man within grew fainter. 1:45 to 30, he no longer dreamt of the sun on his face or the taste of water. His dreams were combat simulations, tactical overlays, and the screams of the dying, processed and categorized. The tech marines and apothecaries who tended to his form saw only the sacred mechanics, the holy oils, the biofeedback readouts. They spoke to the machine, polished its brass honorifics, and chanted the rites of operation. Did they ever wonder about the flesh and blood suspended in the amniotic fluid within? Perhaps once, long ago. But now, he was simply a part of the chapter's arsenal. 2:33:15, his final battle was like countless others. He was deployed on a fractured moon, a key strategic asset in a war of attrition against a greenskin horde. His assault cannon spun, spitting death. His power fist crushed orc war machines into scrap. He was magnificent, a golden icon of the Emperor's wrath, against a tide of brutal, green violence. He moved with a purpose that had been programmed into him over millennia, his every action a perfect execution of combat doctrine. 3:15, 4 o'clock, he pushed forward, a bulwark against the tide. His auspex screamed warnings of incoming fire. His odosenses tracked 100 threats at once. But this time, something was different. A crude, impossibly lucky shot from a Goff rocket found a hairline fracture in his chest, played a wound from a battle fought 5,000 years prior, one that the Tech Marines had deemed insignificant. The explosion was not catastrophic, not at first, but it was a start. 4 o'clock 4:45 alarms blared within his cockpit, a cacophony of digital screams. Red lights flashed across his vision, warning of critical system failures, power fluctuations, sarcophagus integrity compromised. He ignored them. The mission objective was paramount. He continued his advance, his heavy tread shaking the very ground. He was a dreadnought. He did not retreat. He did not fail. He fought. That is all he knew. That is all he was. 4:45, 5:30, another hit, then a third. The machine, this ancient, venerable engine of war, began to falter. A leg servo seized, sending him stumbling. His targeting reticle flickered and died. The voice of his battle brothers in the command box became distorted static. He was isolated, crippled, but still dangerous. He could feel the orc warbands closing in, sensing the weakness of the mighty walker, eager to claim its head as a trophy. 5:36:15 inside the dark. Fluid-filled coffin. The pilot, the remnant of a man, was tossed about as his metal body was brutalized. Systems began to shut down one by one. The machine was dying. The link that bound his consciousness to the Dreadnought sensors and weapon systems began to sever. For the first time in millennia, the constant noise of the machine's operation, the endless stream of data, the hum of power cores, it all started to quiet. 6:15, 7 o'clock, and in that growing silence, something stirred. A flicker, a thought that wasn't a tactical analysis or a weapon status report. It was a feeling, a memory. No. 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 Not a memory. But the ghosts of one, the scent of pine from a forest on his long-dead homeworld, the warmth of a brother's hand on his shoulder. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but it was there. 7 o'clock, 7:45 then. A sharp crack echoed within his sarcophagus, a fissure, spiderwebbing across the viewport. Through the amniotic fluid and the cracked plasteel, he saw a light. It wasn't the harsh, artificial light of his targeting display or the muzzle flash of his weapons. It was a chaotic, brilliant white, the burgeoning energy of his own power core going critical. It was the light of his own imminent demise. 7:45, 8:30, the light was not frightening. It was ... cleansing. It burned away the layers of programming, the data ghosts, the litanies of hate. It burned away the identity of the ancient, the venerable, the dreadnought. It burned through 10,000 years of servitude, 10,000 years of being a thing, a weapon, a machine. And in the heart of that blinding, final light, it found the man. 8:39:15 as the shell of his sarcophagus ruptured and the fire of the reactor began to consume the fluid. The darkness, and him. One final, lucid thought bloomed in his mind. It was clearer than any tactical imperative, more real than any battle he had ever fought. It was a name. His name. A name he hadn't heard, or thought, or remembered for an eternity. 9:15 to 10 o'clock, I remember my name. That was it. His final thought. Not of the Emperor, not of the chapter, not of victory. Just a quiet, profound reclamation of self. And then, the explosion. A brilliant, silent detonation that consumed the Dreadnought and the closing ring of orcs in a sphere of pure, white energy. His duty, a duty that had lasted far, far too long, was finally over. The chapter would recover what fragments they could. They would build a shrine on the spot where the venerable ancient fell. citing his glorious sacrifice, but none would ever know the truth. He didn't die for glory. He didn't die for the Imperium. In that final moment, he died for his own freedom. 10 o'clock to 10:15. Thank you for joining me for this story. In the grim darkness of the far future, sometimes the greatest victory is a quiet end. If you enjoyed this, please consider liking the video, subscribing for more tales from the 41st millennium, and hitting that notification bell. Until next time, may the Emperor protect.